Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
All right, guys, it's time to wish COVID-19 a happy anniversary. It's been 1 year since lockdown. Yay!
That's one candle on the COVID cake.
I thought it was a hoax.
Actually, I have an episode where we talk about it, and you're like incredibly just adamant that it was going to be 10 times worse than the flu and that hundreds and thousands and millions of people would die, and you got pretty close. 500,000. Still not a million, though. Halfway there.
I'll never be able to hit a million unless I get an OnlyFans, and that's never going to happen.
Why?
So, what do you mean, why?
Why not?
Everybody,
to which
everybody
part of that?
has a price. Everybody has a price. So, hey, yeah, happy birthday, COVID. You've been around for a year, a little more than a year now.
Hold on a second. Don't we have another birthday?
No, just COVID.
Wait, is Casey having a birthday?
Who's Casey?
Spencer. Which Casey?
Fuck, I don't know. Who's having a birthday?
Whose birthday?
Were you supposed to bake me something?
Did I say I was going to
Are you having a birthday?
Oh, I thought.
Is he having a birthday?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
What?
Yeah.
Happy birthday,
Well, fuck.
Bishop.
Happy birthday, I guess.
I thought you were about to say happy birthday, bitch.
I was going to, and I changed it halfway through.
Same
Sorry.
difference. No, I'm kidding. Well, dude, happy preemptive. Wow, you and COVID have the same birthday.
Yeah, I can't. Literally, I came back from work after. So this is how it went down. I took off work for my birthday, like I do every year. Get back, first day back to work. Everything's already shutting down. They're like, my bosses are going over like all the stuff they're gonna have to do, how they're gonna have to cut hours, and like move things around to make it work so they don't have to like let anybody go, which they actually didn't. My company actually ended up like taking out loans to make sure their employees had groceries and all this other crazy stuff. It was cool.
And jobs.
And jobs. But it was first day back, and some dude came in and sat in the lobby, and I was already anxious about it because I'm slightly germophobic. I don't like diseases.
No way.
Sicknesses, and I don't like gross. I don't like dirty. And some DoorDash.
I don't like gross. I don't like dirty.
Like gross either.
Yeah,
So.
and some gross, dirty DoorDash guy came in to go pick up a to-go order and sat down in our lobby and just started hacking up a lung. And I looked at my boss and I was like, nope. And he went, what? And I was like, I can't do this. I was like, I can't mentally work through this thing going on. And he looked at me and went, oh shit. And it was like a light switch turned on, and he went, oh yeah, okay. After today, you're good. You don't have to work. He's like, we can furlough you too. We'll
Happy
add
birthday.
you to the list. And
That
I
was
was
your
like,
birthday gift.
it was a couple of days after my birthday, but yeah, it was.
I mean, there's like, you have a whole week for your birthday, in my opinion.
It was, that's what I pretty much, I take 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And and so I went home and started playing video games with Frying Pan for 8 weeks.
Yeah, that was super fun. We got really into Animal Crossing and No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
And
Played a lot of Survivor games where it's like Second Life kind of shit, where we're just like.
Because I think that's where we thought things were going to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we were preparing ourselves virtually.
It was me, you, and some dude named Omar. I don't know who.
Oh, yeah, I miss Omar.
Yeah, and Jason. Jason would like join our party chat because he actually still had to work. He works from home. And so he would join our like game chat afterwards and be like, this says this party's been going on for 9.5 hours.
Yep.
And we're like,
No,
yeah.
one of them was definitely 10 hours.
One got up there to 13.
Yeah.
And Jason was
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? And we're like, what?
How did you
Like,
guys
what do we-
have blood vessels in your ass left? Like,
We were both
I mean, you
furloughed,
take-
so both of our jobs had let us go,
What?
but they with plans to bring us back, right? So what else were the fuck we supposed to do?
how did you not get blood clots? I don't get.
I mean,
Like-
I actually made it a point that every like, oh shit, maybe every 4 hours I would get up and actually like go walk around my apartment complex.
So
and
kind
then
of
come
like
back.
a truck driver.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh man, that's not. I can't take a 4-hour car ride. It drives me crazy. Like I start to get like my legs like that.
If I could take a 4-hour car ride in a spaceship exploring new planets, I'd do it all the time.
Yeah, Casey went to Mars.
Yeah, I did basically.
I get it.
Do you?
We finally made it.
Finally,
COVID did it for
COVID
us.
got me to space, baby.
have you heard now that they're all theorizing that the recent re-interest in like the colonization of Mars and also these like
Yes.
space hotels. You've heard about these? They're building in space where like that's basically for like the ruling class. Like they say that's the kind of eventual.
Yeah, have you seen Wall-E?
Yeah. They basically this is
Yeah.
the plot of the movie Wall-E.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
And we're all
did
gonna
you guys
die.
watch that video I sent you?
It's not going to happen in our lifetime.
No.
You can edit this out. Did you watch the video I sent you?
No.
Hell World, episode 3.
No, because once you said you were 35 minutes in, I
You
was
got to
like,
watch
nah.
it. It covers all this.
She won't even watch Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah, I know.
It's 4 hours of shit I don't
You got to
wanna
watch this video. She covers, up to this point, everything that's happened since like November. And they go through like the GameStop thing. They go through like Amazon cities. Have you heard about this?
Hulu came out
Big
with a
tech
new GameStop.
cities and schools. They're now turning big tech into
Yeah.
governments, local governments. So you would go to like the Amazon school. You would go to the Facebook like grocery store.
Isn't there a local government in Texas
Bro, it's getting crazy.
that's run by like
It's
frat
getting.
children?
They've also to combat in the year anniversary of Breonna Taylor's murder. They started painting famous black historical figures like Martin Luther King and Harriet Tubman. Get this, in the back of police cars that say diversity on the side of them. You guys have got to watch that video. It's fucking hilarious. The girl that does it is she's massive like YouTube celebrity, but she's really good at editing her videos and cutting in like TikTok clips and newspaper clippings and press. She talks about
What's her name?
her YouTube name is Shoe on Head. And she does a whole series of things talking about like just like a lot of current social media outrage and cancel culture and woke culture and like just the defamity of
Doesn't she shit on it a lot? Like make fun of
totally.
it?
Well,
Yeah.
she's like logic minded, but you've got to watch that video. Just watch it like while you're doing something or
You're
like
telling me to watch a lot of things lately, and I don't really like being told what
Start
to
with
do.
the dirt.
we'll start with something. Like you just go home and play a game again, and then
That's actually
you show up
not
every
true.
week and you go, oh, I didn't do
I've
anything.
started going to the gym, so you can fuck off.
Bro, I want to go to the gym too, but I haven't got a vaccine yet. I'm afraid to go until I get the vaccine.
Oh.
Going 30 minutes this week is not. That's not something to bring up.
I went more
Dude.
than 30 minutes. Fuck
I
you.
speaking of the
I went
vaccine,
at least 2 hours.
anyway, you guys have got to watch that video. There's a lot to talk about in that video. There's a lot. Like you'll be like, you won't believe some of the things that you just watch it.
Also,
watch
to
it.
be fair, I don't go to an actual gym. My apartment complex has a fitness center.
You go to the fitness room.
It's really nice. It's got a little cycle thing. It's got a treadmill. It's got some weights and
It's got a cycle thing.
all
It's
you
got
need,
a
dude.
runny belt. It's got the big metal thing.
It's
you
got a
lift.
hamster wheel.
Yeah, it's got a.
what did you say?
Hamster wheel.
Wheel?
Hamster
Wheel.
wheel.
Wheel?
White.
It's got
the H
it's
comes
got-
before
it-
the W.
It's got a water hole that's long enough to swim in.
Yeah, water hole.
Yeah,
You're like an otter.
it's got a cycle thing.
We don't have a watering hole there.
So check this out. Get this. So everybody. Have any of you guys been vaccinated yet?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'm trying to sign up for one.
So here's the thing. Like I passed eligibility like in the last phase because I'm immunocompromised.
Oh, I thought it's because of your age.
But that's good. But listen. So I called my doctor, and I went, "Hey, I can get on the list now to get the vaccine. I know a ton of people that have already gotten it." And I was like, "So I can sign up now, but I just wanted to, I don't have a spleen, so." Sometimes they tell me to get vaccines. Sometimes they tell me not to. Like I'm not allowed to get the flu vaccine, but I'm allowed to get all these other topical vaccines. Like I've had the Pneumovax and like all this stuff, tons of stuff.
So you can get the COVID
Streptococcus
vaccine?
meningitis. Well, that's the thing. I called the doctor just before I signed up because you can get them all over the place now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walgreens has a drive-through.
And
Yeah.
you can sign up at like Kroger, Walmart. They're getting tons of them a day. You have to get on a point. You might be on the appointment for a couple weeks, but a lot of people have already gotten it. And so I said, I just want to know, like, if I can get it, I really, really would like to start going back to the gym, but I don't want to go there till I get vaccinated because I know it's just sweaty and it's virus
Cesspool
cesspool.
of germs and gross and dirty.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not crazy about the idea of working out in a mask either. So
I've done it. It's.
Awful.
I mean, I only did it for like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
so
I've been
it wasn't
working a
terrible.
year.
I already hate breathing my own breath.
I've
Can
been working a
imagine-
year straight in a mask, and I'm like,
So there's a new conspiracy theory out that the vaccine is the mark of the beast.
listen to this.
Bring it on.
Before you get into that, like, I'll let you finish with that.
I don't know anything about it.
Just
That's
listen. So I called the doctor and I called my doctor. I left a message. I go, I just wanted to double check. I just had a ton of vaccinations about a year ago, blah, 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 blah. I just want to make sure it's okay for me to sign up for the COVID vaccine. And they went, let us call you back. Never got a call back. I called the next day. I said, hey, there's vaccines available in my area. Just want to make sure it's okay for me to get it, not having a spleen, being a certain percentage immunocompromised.
spleenless. Yeah.
And they said, there's not a lot of information about that yet. And they went, don't get it yet. Let us do some research on it. I got a call back late that day from a doctor, from Summit Medical. And she goes, we can't find anything about that on the CDC website. And I was like, so can I get the vaccine? They go, we would not advise it yet. I said, so one day you're going to advise? They go, we need to check up on it more. And I haven't heard anything back.
They need to see if there are any negative complications for people who don't have spleens.
I don't know, but that was from Summit Medical Group, local doctor's office. And I'm sure that if you don't have any like pre-existing conditions, it's safe to get. I'm not saying it's not safe to get one. I just thought it was weird that they didn't go, yes, go get it right now.
Okay, it's a new vaccine. It's a new virus, at least within the last year and a half. Okay, so there's still some data that needs to be collected, especially if the vaccines are coming out. And there's probably not a lot of data collected on people who don't have spleens yet. I mean, there's a couple of that article that I shared with you guys that said that elderly people, after getting forms of the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, they developed some sort of blood disorder. Now, the CDC has not confirmed if that was vaccine related, but they seem to have developed it after they had gotten both of those vaccines.
Well, in the news clip that I dropped today, which if you're hearing this, you probably heard this last week. But AstraZeneca, the company that makes vaccines in Europe, 7 countries had to stop issuing it because people were developing blood clots.
Yeah.
And they had a bunch of deaths. And since then, they had come out and said, we looked into it and it didn't have anything to do with the vaccine. So, but it was blood related. And that's a type of vaccine we don't have in this country.
Right.
But they're currently sending to Mexico. So is the vaccine safe?
It did just come out. I mean, so you never really know.
If my doctor would have been like, dude, yeah, get it. You got to get it. I would have been like, but the fact that they were like,
Well, I think it has to do with you not having a spleen. And there's no information on people who don't have spleens.
Right.
From my understanding, this vaccine is basically a clone of the rabies vaccine, and they've like modified it for COVID, and they've made it into a vaccine that can be. Alea was telling us about this.
Like a plug in and play.
Yeah, kind of basically they can take the strain out, put a new strain in, and the vaccine will still work. Take that strain out, put another strain in, that vaccine will work.
Now, I've been seeing on because people have been posting pictures of their vaccine paperwork, which seems smart, right?
We need to talk about this because there's some division over whether or not it's okay to go on social media with your vaccine card. So what are your thoughts on that?
So one of the things I want to mention on the vaccine card is it says there's an expiry date. So the vaccine is only good for a year. Is that what I'm getting?
Oh, I don't know that. Is that true? Do you have to get it again every year?
I don't know. What does that mean?
Hey, the news is going to get you. It always comes to get you. Welcome to Beacon House News for this week. In current news, a wax statue of Donald Trump had to be removed from a museum in Texas because people kept punching it. 10 people, including Officer Eric Talley, were killed in a shooting at a supermarket in Boulder, Colorado. Talley was a father to 7 children. The Biden administration is eyeing much stricter gun laws. Speaking of the Biden administration, they fired staffers for past marijuana use. Of note, Vice President Kamala Harris, who laughed about using weed while prosecuting nonviolent drug offenders in California, is now being assigned to deal with some 10,500 unaccompanied migrant minors being held along the border in COVID-19 isolation. Hopefully none of them have any pot on them. One of the world's most heavily trafficked maritime lanes was blocked after a massive shipping vessel became stuck in Egypt's Suez Canal. The ship, nearly a quarter mile in length, about equal to the height of the Empire State Building, ran aground and turned sideways after encountering poor visibility and strong winds. African elephants were reclassified from vulnerable to endangered due to poaching. Forest elephant populations have declined 86% over 30 years, and savanna have declined 60% over 5 years. We're hoping that they do something to help our friends the elephants. And that's all this week for your Beacon House News.
So the vaccine has a shelf life like milk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
but once it's injected into you, it's fine. But I believe it's going to be...
Pfizer and the Moderna have to be used by the end of the day, or they have to throw it away. So a lot of times you can, in fact, almost every local pharmacy, you can get on a waiting list, and for people that don't show up by like 8 o'clock, they'll call you and go, hey, if you can get down here, I'll give it to you, because we're going to have to throw it in the trash. And they've had to throw hundreds of them away because people just didn't show up for their appointment. Now, the Johnson & Johnson doesn't have to be refrigerated, and it's a one and done, but it's less efficacy. It's like 72 versus 95% or something like that. A lot of people still don't care. I know at least 5 people that have gotten the Johnson & Johnson vaccine elsewhere. I don't think they have it in Knox County, but they have it in Nashville and Seattle. I know people that have gotten it.
It's very strange for me to say this, but I'm so tired of fucking conspiracy theories.
I am too.
I'm done with it. So
not everything is a conspiracy.
Well, and I'm just going to go get the vaccine. People are like, there's a microchip in it. Well, I have one in my phone, so that just fucking double up on the microchips I have on me.
It's funny to me, the same people who say that they're microchipping you via these vaccines are the same people saying, Siri, take me to the nearest Hobby Lobby. Yeah. Siri, take me to the nearest, healthcare provider. Or like they're telling the system.
They're using facial recognition.
Yeah.
Again, in that
and
video,
fingerprint systems.
In that video I sent you guys, there's
also have passwords as 1, 2, 3, 4 to unlock their phone.
Yeah.
Sorry,
same people. Yeah, you're right. Same people that they trust the technology they like. They don't trust the technology that has possibly been associated with a political party they're not fond of, or whatever, or a person they don't like, or the guy that said something on Twitter.
All technology has been.
What's the vaccine Dolly Parton worked on? Was it Moderna?
She just donated. I think she donated to Pfizer.
Maybe.
But she donated like $1 million towards one of them.
I want to do that one because she works 9 to 5 and she gets it. So I want to get that vaccine.
Works 8 to 5. She doesn't get my extra hour that I have to do.
Bro, so a new thing, again, watch that video I sent you. Now facial recognition software on phones and in laptops is supposed to be able to determine your political affiliation. Also, it's supposed to be able to determine your sexual orientation. And the girl in the video, she literally goes, I can't believe that they actually invented gaydar. And it's true. So you got to see this stuff. You got to see these things, man. You guys got to watch that video. It's fucking, it's savage.
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I'm tearing up now. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I want to watch that video now.
Bro, it's got so much in it. It's got the black people being spray painted on police cars. It's got the facial recognition of political parties. It's got the whole thing about the boomer class when the GameStop Wall Street thing happened. They blamed it on people not having enough sex. They said this is white men that don't get laid enough. God. And then she goes, so they've decided that they're going to open the glass box and smash the emergency button and call us all virgins. I mean, you guys got to watch that video. It's fucking legendary.
I'm a simp for stocks. That's actually not true.
So
you just wanted to hear how that sounded.
I really did.
You wanted to hear how that sounded in your headphones. I saw it in your fucking face. I want to say simp and stocks together.
So,
I want to sexualize the stock market somehow, and I want to see what that sounds like in these headphones.
Everything is sexualized. The stock market is 110% sexualized.
How? How's that?
Not when you're a sex addict. Anyways,
it just is.
How do you explain?
Statistically.
You talking about the act of trading stocks, or you talking about the sexualization of power?
Both.
All right.
So I've just been informed that apparently people are stealing second doses on social media pictures of like the vaccine cards. Like people post their vaccine cards and someone goes and takes that and gets their second dose. How fucked up would that be to get your first dose, share it online, be like, got my first vaccine dose, and you go in to get the second one. They're like, oh, someone already came in and got that. And you're like, oh, fuck. Oh, no.
I think that probably falls on the provider to check IDs and stuff.
Well, let me ask you this.
Isn't that how they do voting, too?
This
video,
you
mean you have to show an ID for something important?
Wait a second. What?
This video that you sent, does it start off with like Joe Biden and it's like fucking colorful and shit?
Yeah,
that's why I turned it off. The first 3 seconds, I was like, duh, I don't know.
No, it's got a clip at the beginning made by another videographer, and it's this kind of funny Joe Biden, Kamala Harris thing. And then that ends and the actual video starts. So if you want to skip through all that, it is a little bizarre. If you just watch it and go, what's this? You got to give it at least 15 minutes. But trust me, once it starts going, you'll be like, oh my God, this is great. The girl's sharp. She's sharp as fuck, man. And she blows up everything that's happening in current. Like, she goes, you remember in 2015 when something would go wrong and like you'd hear about it for a week, like your Twitter feed would blow up, and like, all this shit would happen. She goes, well, this is 2021. And that happens every fucking hour of our life now. Every hour is the worst day of your life.
We're desensitized to chaos.
She goes, we've been yeeted as far as you possibly can, and it comes in waves. Welcome to Hell World, episode 3, and it just goes. It's so fucking funny. Anyway,
Casey,
I'll stop talking about it.
Casey, you said you had something you wanted to talk about.
I just want to talk about the anniversary of COVID.
COVID.
That's it?
Yeah, I mean, reminisce on what we were doing like a year ago.
I saw a
post. Yeah, that's it. Dumpster fire.
I thought it was something bigger than that.
She's like, I thought you had something important to talk about.
I thought you had bigger news.
Thought you had bigger things. I saw a thing where somebody said, it's the 1 year anniversary of 2 weeks to ststop the virus. They said give it 2 weeks.
Oh my god!
And this will all be over.
Yeah,
And a year later,
I keep seeing videos come up as like, oh, we're getting out of school for 2 weeks because of this coronavirus thing, haha. And then it plays a year later, and people are just staring at the wall.
Well, think about it. Think about kids that were seniors in high school who thought that, like, they left school, said bye to their friends, and then never went back. They never got a prom. They never got graduation. They never got to say bye to the friends that they'll probably never see again. I don't know. There's just things that there's things that happen with the pandemic and the lockdown and stuff that I just they weren't on my back porch. So I didn't really think about it.
It sucked for anybody graduating from either high school or college or trying to have like their freshman year or senior year or whatever. It was tough on a lot of those people.
Or like people living in assisted living who are basically locked in their rooms for a year.
Yeah,
it's almost as
I
if
knew people that had to visit their parents through window. They weren't allowed to see their actual parents.
Fuck.
Because they were in a nursing home and they weren't allowed. They were allowed and they had to literally set up a folding chair outside a window and just look at their like mom or dad through a window of a nursing home.
Yeah.
Shit.
And I know people that lost their parents during the pandemic that still haven't been able to have a funeral for them. One guy I know, God bless him, I'm not going to name the family, but it's a guy I went to high school with, and somebody literally drove a car through the front of his parents' house, got out and shot both of his parents, and it was this massive tragedy, and that happened right at the onset of COVID. So he had to, deal with that while being in a pandemic lockdown. Also, they couldn't, like, have a funeral or any people from
like memorialized
family from out of town that lost their daughters or their whatever their relation was couldn't come in town. I mean, you talk about some stuff is much harder than just sitting home during a pandemic.
Playing 13 hours of video games a day.
And I'm not, no offense to you guys, but like there are things in life that are super, super hard. And I hope you guys have a long time before you encounter them. Those things require a lot of healing and a lot of closure. And to try to do that in the middle of this with no funeral, no contact, no anything, like no hug from the grandmother that lost a daughter that was also your mom, or, it's fucked up. And another guy, a very, 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 very good friend of mine, and his mom was in a nursing home. And she passed during all this too, so they haven't been able to have a celebration for her. It's tough, man. A lot of tough shit. So
it's crazy though, because the compassion that you're feeling, understanding that a lot of people are going through some really shitty things. It sucks because that's been happening for generations.
Yeah,
I mean, super shitty stuff like this happens all the time, and nobody pays any mind to it until something happens to you.
Yeah,
or until it's on, like you said, your back doorstep or front doorstep or whatever. I think
some of that's by design, because if you spent your entire waking life thinking about like what's coming, I think life's great, but life's also so horrible. If you were constantly mindful of like what you're going to face one day and how many different horrible things you're going to face in the future, you'd be crazy. You wouldn't be able to enjoy your day-to-day life. I think
it's almost as if we need a system that allows for us to have maybe free therapy for everybody, just in case they get to that point.
Hey,
I think everybody should be in therapy
of one kind or another, definitely. Even if it's just personal self-therapy. Like if you're not thinking about keeping yourself mentally stable,
especially if we're looking at the rates at how suicide's gone up during COVID.
Massively.
Insane.
Massively.
And what have we done to improve our healthcare system?
It's killed as many people as the virus.
Right. So that being said, what have we done to improve our healthcare system to allow for more people to get into therapy, to talk about their issues, to talk through their problems?
Yeah, it's terrible. And I agree with Casey. I don't want everything to just be a conspiracy theory, but definitely nobody gave a fuck about mental health, and they cared a lot about viruses and lockdowns.
And bombing other countries.
In the middle of that. Yeah, that's also in the video. Biden goes, can we... Some guy comes like, excuse me, Mr. President. He goes, all right, who is that guy? I don't know where I am. Can we bomb something? Anyway, you got to watch it, dude. But
do you just want to like replay the whole video for us?
I've watched it 5 times. It's got so much good shit in it. Anyway, you can cut all this out. I recommend Shoe on Head episode 3 Hell World.
Ridiculous.
But there's something, they didn't give a fuck about people dying from suicide, mental health, and all that.
I mean, they didn't care beforehand, to be fair. They didn't care before that.
To be fair.
They didn't care when they were doing the Just Say No campaign, which made everything 10 times worse.
You're fucking right.
They didn't give a shit when, fucking not. It's fine.
Back to what you were saying about like just the way life works and how that helps you sort of deal with mental health and depression and stuff like that. But I would say this, speaking of COVID, and we talked about this a lot with COVID, and Casey brought this up, like if you're not doing something to sort of at least maintenance your mental health,
even if that means playing 13 hours of a
and I said it on another podcast a year ago, and I understand it sounds very insensitive, but the whole argument that no one did anything about suicide rates while everyone was worried about COVID, one of them was a highly contagious virus, and the other one is depression that people can't catch. And I understand that sounds insensitive, but one of these things is an invisible thing that can attack your friends and family if you contract it. The other one is something that you should definitely seek help for. But those two, I just don't find them on the same.
One of them's contagious.
It's just on the same playing field. Like bringing those two things up together and trying to compare them is trying to compare apples to oranges.
Well, they're apples and oranges, but in this case, they're relative.
They are relative.
When one of them hits, the other one goes through the roof. The suicide rates were way down until lockdowns happened. Lockdowns happened because of COVID.
Because people lost their jobs, people were not able to pay their bills.
Substance abuse, domestic violence.
What would you do instead? Not lock down, have people get around each other and have the cases
build up social organizations. Okay, fund social organizations to help people who have lost their jobs, to help people who cope through these situations through loss of family members, loss of financial.
Check it out. You just said the job you work for, your business.
You didn't lose your job.
They took out loans to help you.
Right.
But people that had mental health issues, they didn't have any protection from the lockdown. You did.
Right.
So regardless of the reason, whether it's a virus or whether it's a dinosaur outside or whether a meteor is coming this way or whether all of a sudden the air became unbreathable, they told everybody, get inside, close your business, lose your income, and all this. And for some people, that put them absolutely at the edge of the fire of mental health issues, which could lead to suicide or battery, like domestic violence. They couldn't get away from that abusive spouse, or they substance issues. They people that were possibly dealing with addiction issues. Now they're just cooped up with their addictions.
And people who were going from,
and the only people they took care of were just people that needed money.
Right.
Okay.
But
what does that look like?
But they did something to help. Well, kind of. They gave you a pissy stimulus and they furloughed some people. Luckily, you had a business that wanted to pay for you to not work. But most people didn't.
But my question,
but they didn't do anything to help the other people that were suffering. I mean, I think what I'm saying is, I agree with her. There was no system put in place to help people that were mentally struggling.
Instead of the extra, however much of the stimulus that was just passed, the 1.9 trillion billion, however much that was, instead of that money going towards social organizations to help people who are going through these situations of financial loss, of loved people loss, so basically helping, maybe helping pay for therapy or help pay for medications or stuff like that people can no longer afford because they've lost jobs and all these other things. Instead of putting that extra money towards bombing other countries and building up, whatever military organizations we think we need to be building up right now, put that money towards social work, towards social organizations to help those people who have lost their jobs. Maybe figure out a way to create more jobs somehow. Maybe come up with some sort of line to create more PPE,
or
if this
through
is
the federal government
on.
author free mental health counseling online during the pandemic.
I mean, there's organizations that people are taking advantage of before all of this. Homeless people take advantage of whatever those organizations are that you go in and they help you find temp work. Okay, so maybe have that for people who have also lost their jobs currently.
Or something, yeah. And I will say, I understand that they didn't close the suicide hotline during this. I understand that there still were channels for people. I'm just acknowledging that their struggles got way, way, way worse.
The one thing you guys keep talking about it, what is it that us three could have done to help that?
Well, we didn't have any control over this anyway.
But I mean, going into lockdown, socially distancing, and making sure we didn't go outside. That was our contribution to not spreading the virus. What could we have done during the lockdown to help the suicide rate? Because everything you guys are talking about seems like it's at a higher government level that only occurs every 2 to 4 years for us to go vote, which is nothing we could have done in this last year.
But let me ask you this. Did we willingly go on lockdown before we were told to?
No.
Did you stop working before you knew there was...
I mean, technically, I was on vacation, went back one day, and then went. And
you saw a guy coughing, but you'd been told
I don't think quarantine had started then.
Quarantine hadn't started yet. I'm just saying, did we
really? The quarantine, lockdown in Knoxville, really started in April.
But that's when everybody did it. When they told you had to do it. We didn't just automatically do it.
To answer your question, the best thing that we could have done, the three of us sitting in this room, is reached out to those people who just went through a shitty situation.
Yeah.
We know that we have friends who are probably living paycheck to paycheck, right?
Okay.
We have friends who probably have lost those jobs in order to pay paycheck to paycheck. Okay?
My cousin-
We may not have been able to do anything financially for them because maybe we're in a similar situation, but reaching out and just being like, listen, like if there's something you need from me, let me know.
And you know what? I didn't do that publicly.
I didn't.
I think I did it with my friends. Maybe said, dude, if you need anything. But like, I didn't go on Facebook. My cousin went on Facebook. God bless him. Like, I was impressed with this. He went on Facebook. He's done this several times in the last year. And he said, listen, if anybody's out of a job and not getting a paycheck and you don't have money to eat, like you can't buy groceries or feed your kids, message me. Like, I don't have that much, but I'll do something. I don't want anybody to starve. He like put himself out there to even almost complete strangers. Like, I'm here to help. And I was like, damn, dude, like, why the fuck didn't I do that? Like, and I don't know. I think as soon as the lockdown happened, I just got very introverted.
I actually would like to go back on my statement. I did do something publicly, and I posted a picture of it on Facebook because I thought maybe it would help inspire more people to do it. I did bake a bunch of cookies, put them in separate baggies for all of my neighbors walking by, being like, listen, like if you're out of a job or if you just went through something shitty, here's some cookies. Have a good day.
I think that's great.
Nobody took any. I kept hearing them fall off the door as I'm watching TV.
What did you just put them outside? Like take
Yeah,
one
I put them out. I mean, yeah, I put
in the middle of a pandemic?
I put like a big note on my door. They're all in separate Ziploc baggies. I was like, listen, like, you know,
Hey, I touched all these bags. Touched them too.
They're in the virus is bagged individually for you.
disinfected. They're all disinfected.
I sprayed
put,
disinfectant
all right,
on the
whatever.
cookies.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea in the moment. But shit, I did something.
Individually.
It was the thought that counted.
The virus can't go in the bag. No, I see what you. That's good that you did so. I can see why people might have been uneasy, but that's nice that you did that.
Honestly, I just feel like, I mean, yeah, you can call a friend and be like, hey, if you need anything, let me know. But a lot of us, I mean, once unemployment started happening, most of those people should have been collecting $600 a week on unemployment, correct?
Some people didn't get theirs until way late. Like I know one person specifically,
And some
didn't
people
get
didn't
any
get
of,
it at all.
Didn't get their unemployment until
I never got an unemployment
when they
check.
were
I
out
never
of
got
the,
to take a day off.
But that's the thing. So you're still working. You didn't actually
But working frontline during a pandemic is a lot different than like the safety of sitting at home and getting a check. That's very different. Every single day you feel like,
what does that
I'm
have
gonna
to
get
do with the suicide rate going up?
That's extremely mentally like challenging.
debilitating.
Yeah. Like literally we would come home from work every day and go, is the virus on me? I don't
Right.
know. Like I got coughed on by a bunch of people today. Like I had to go. I had to be around the public. This is before people even like, days before they even reopened. This is when we thought it was on like all the gas pumps and all the door handles and like.
I remember I was pumping gas and wiping Clorox.
Yeah.
Like, Clorox
You remember we were
stuff.
talking about going through a drive-through and then getting home and sanitizing the bag.
I mean, I would get Instacart, my groceries delivered, and I'd wipe down boxes of cereal
Yeah.
and shit with Clorox wipes.
Yeah, but we were like the people in the restaurant industry didn't get a day off. We had to just go to work and you would come home thinking like, am I going to die? I don't
that was the thing that bothered me is I feel like, do you think it would have helped at the beginning of this? A lot of people were like, they should shut everything down except like gas stations and grocery stores.
No, I don't think it would have helped.
No.
They did all the stuff that the CDC said would help, and nothing helped. Masks didn't help. Shutdowns didn't help. Nothing fucking helped. You know what happened? Herd immunity. What the experts, the virologists said at the very beginning of this whole thing, they're like, the only way we're going to get out of this is either a vaccine or some kind of herd immunity. You can't just make a virus go away.
Well, I don't think
Viruses have been around for millions of years. And
And
they've
they
been
will continue to be
phenomenally.
around.
Yeah, the microbes are successful for a reason. But whatever. Like my whole point is like you feel a lot safer at home than you do out working during it, especially when you don't have a choice. And I couldn't have lived off $600 a month. There's no way I could have.
Right.
So we had no choice, you know. And then we feel like you have to protect other people. I'm not getting into this, but like my whole point is maybe not for you, Casey, particularly, but for a lot of people. This lockdown has been extremely mentally challenging, especially
and
the
I
people
get
that couldn't have a funeral for their parents and stuff like that. Like it's been very tough.
I understand, but what I'm saying is we're sitting here getting to an argument about something that I feel like we have no control over, and all we're doing is just yelling at each other, but no solutions are
not
being.
that-
Do you feel like we're
created
yelling
here.
at you?
No. I just feel like there's nothing is being done here in this room that's going to help or that would have helped
Well, I'm not necessarily talking
because it
about
has to do with the government.
help.
It has to do with people.
It doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. It doesn't mean we shouldn't.
I mean, we should talk about it, but you guys are talking about it like.
Mental health is a big deal.
But the
Big
way
deal.
you guys are talking about it makes I feel like is going to make some listeners feel guilty that they didn't do things that they didn't need to do or
We should definitely have a disclaimer that this is not to make anybody feel bad. It's just to maybe highlight that there are certain types of, I think, frying pan, you can comment on this. My whole purpose for talking about this at all is just to highlight that there's, and I had to learn this in the last couple of years. Like, I had never gone to a therapist or anything before 2017 or 18, whenever I went. You have to, just like you have to maintenance your physical health. Like, if you don't, you get fucked up. You also have to maintenance your mental health. And I got by nearly 40 something years without having to address that. Eventually, something's going to come up on a lot of people. And if they're not prepared for that, what I was going to say is there's a lot of, you don't have to go to a therapist. You don't have to go to a doctor and get medicated. But you got to find something. For you guys, maybe it's playing video games.
Right.
But you got to find something that allows you to kind of decompress or process. Like, it's not always necessarily about relaxing. Sometimes you need to face the things that are confronting you and like face them head on. And most people agree that like taking the first step is the hardest. And then once you get into it, you understand more than you thought. And most people find out in the long run, it's their perception of things that are like, most people's suffering is self-imposed. That's hard to explain to a lot of people that think, no, it's this person who did something to me.
Right.
That's why I'm suffering. Or
Right.
this thing that happened to me, that's why I'm suffering. It's their fault. It's that fault. It's the fault of this guy that was mean to me, or it's the fault of this person who crashed into my car. Like, but most of our suffering is self-generated. But it's very hard to understand that, and you've got to do a lot of work to figure out how to turn that on and off, or how to reverse that when you start feeling it. And during things like a lockdown, especially when and you got to admit, Casey, they absolutely broadcast paranoia from the mountaintops.
Absolutely. And I'm also not disagreeing with anything you're all saying. I'm just trying to get, I guess, devil's advocate.
You're kind of being like, well, what could we have done?
I'm just probably trying to play devil's advocate, because throughout the pandemic, a lot of people, like me, you, and Hunter would get in arguments because, our mayor would post numbers every day talking about how low the numbers are and how mental health. And yes, we should talk about mental health and how the suicide rates were going up and none of the numbers were going up. But the moment coronavirus hit Knoxville and all of a sudden the numbers started fluctuating, he quit posting about it on Twitter, because the moment it wasn't perpetuating the point he was trying to make, and it was in fact going against what the point he was trying to make, it went away. And to me, it's like, if you're gonna do that, you need to stick with it all the way through, even when it's negative to you. Even when you have to go, all right, actually, you know what? Now it's becoming a problem.
Like when he went, look, we're going to open up, and they opened up, and then numbers skyrocketed.
Right.
Right, exactly.
That's a politician thing anyway. Anytime your numbers
all of this is a politician thing, because you're asking people to open up social care. But none of us can do that. That has to do with politicians making the right choices.
I'm not asking us to do that.
I'm not saying that.
The reason I brought this up was because I think some people need a reality check. I think some people need some sort of different perspective and understanding that there are people out there who are still continually suffering because of what happened with COVID. There are people out there who still believe this is all a hoax. This is all a big joke. This is all a whatever you want. The fact of the matter is people are dying and we're not taking it seriously, whether it's by COVID, whether it's by suicide rates. The economy is suffering greatly. And anytime the economy suffers, suicide rates go up.
A lot of things. Yeah, things get worse.
And then it falls even farther that we don't take mental health into account.
That's true. Will talks about that a lot too, about like just the absolute the disparagement of mental health care while we're dealing with we're dealing with like COVID, and we're dealing with politics, and we're dealing with riots and things. Nobody ever talks about mental health. Nobody talks about mental health even before a big pandemic or even before something big happens. And my point for bringing this up is, real quick. I hate when I hear myself interrupt you on the playbacks, but before you say whatever you're going to say, I think originally when we started talking about this, what we were saying is the normal things that people struggle with, and when the world is normal, when there's no lockdown, no pandemic, it's hard enough. But there are some normal life things that help you cope with loss, that help you cope with mental challenges and mental bad mental health, just like day-to-day life has a way of, you can correct a little easier. It's like trying to steer your car back on the road when it's not raining. But now we're trying to steer the car back on the road during an ice storm, a blizzard, of ice raining down on us. So like, it's gotten harder to correct your mental health during the pandemic. I think that's what we were talking. So now the struggle is even greater.
Right.
And it's nobody's fault. And I agree, Casey, you're 100% right. It's not contagious. Like bad mental health is not contagious. A virus is. And so I get it. I get you can't lock down against mental health. But I think the point we were trying to make is you carry that. That's always running in the background, like on your phone, all the apps that run in the background.
Yeah.
The mental challenge is always running in the background. And some people this year, you had a relatively great year. You got engaged. Like a lot of cool stuff happened for you. You've still got both your parents are alive. There's a lot of, you know what I'm saying? But some people were already like kind of on the edge. And this is very hard for them.
And I understand I'm coming off like the evil guy here. My point is, you're talking about people still believe it's conspiracy theory and things like that. That's not us in this room, and that's not the people who listen. And if you're talking about like, I think that when we locked down and started getting stimulus checks, there should have been an outlet for people who needed to talk to somebody. I completely agree with that. However,
and we're not saying that there weren't. Like I said, they didn't shut down the suicide hotline. Like there were still some channels. But just was it enough? And even maybe some people weren't there. Maybe what if you weren't quite suicidal, but you couldn't you were debilitatingly depressed. Like you couldn't get you weren't ready to kill yourself, but what if you just couldn't get up and go to work? You were sick, you couldn't eat. There's a lot of physical, when mental health manifests physically, it gets really weird and ugly, you know?
The other reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I know personally a lot of people who don't believe in therapy. And that could be for any number of reasons. I've heard, well, my parents never put me in therapy. My parents don't believe in therapy. I probably should be, but I've never had a chance to be in therapy. I wanted to bring this up because I wanted people to understand that I think it's a good idea for you to consider some sort of therapy if you can.
Absolutely.
I recently, for the first time in my life, after 25 years of living, and all of the cumulative issues that have happened over the last 25 years, just had my first session last week. One of the things that my counselor told to me was that she said people take it upon themselves to maintain their car for maintenance. They get yearly checkups, they get yearly physicals for their bodies. They get, mammograms just to make sure they don't have breast cancer. They, do all these things to make sure that, no underlying issues are causing any real pain. The problem is we don't put that sort of importance on mental health in any aspect, what pandemic or not. Let's say, total economic destruction or not, we just don't take it as seriously.
That's exactly what Dax Shepard said about marriage counseling.
Right.
A lot of people are big fans of his relationship with Kristen Bell, but they've almost gotten divorced 20 times. Like they're both very bullheaded. They argue a lot. They've got a lot. And so they've been in counseling since the second date before they even got married, But he talks about, he goes, it's so important because he said the same thing. When something goes wrong with your car, you don't just go, well, I'll figure it out. Like
you fix it because it could cause a major accident.
And you take it to an expert,
right,
for maintenance.
Yes.
When you have when you get injured, like you fall and break your arm, you don't just go, oh, I'll figure it out. You go to a doctor and you have an expert set the bone.
And the other thing she said to me was, what happens when you break a bone and you don't take it to an expert and it doesn't heal properly? What do they have to do? They have to re-break it.
And those are all good analogies for therapy, for whether it's relationship therapy, whether it's mental health therapy, whether it's grief counseling, and those are different. I don't want to sit here and go, grief counseling is exactly the same as marriage counseling. It's not. Those are all about they're very, very different, but I encourage people to look into them and not be afraid of them.
Right.
I recently had a really good friend who's actually been on this podcast. I'm not going to say who it is because HIPAA laws, but we encouraged him to go and get in counseling because he had a lot of PTSD from things that happened years ago. And he didn't really know, but he knew that he was struggling with some stuff. He was struggling for a long time. And he went and he did some therapy and it helped him a lot. He immediately was better off. So again, maybe you don't need therapy, or maybe you're therapy, and there's different kinds of therapy. It doesn't have to be a doctor you pay for.
It's so weird how this conversation went to, is therapy good or not? Because therapy is absolutely great.
Well, but
my point is if you're wanting free therapy, that's a lot harder when all the therapists shut their doors because of COVID, and the politicians will not give it away for free.
And that's when you need that's co-therapy. That's when you have you need another human being to work on you.
And not all
therapy is that. Sometimes therapy is going to the gym. A lot of
Yes.
people find therapy in exercise. A lot of
Yes.
people find
Going
therapy.
outside.
I'd also
hiking,
like to
camping.
point out a lot of therapists have switched to online therapy. They've switched to a lot of these really great apps like Talkspace. That's the only one that I can think of right now, but I know there are others.
There's a bunch where you can get an app.
You can text your therapist. You can tell them your problems.
But did that happen like right in March of last year, or was that like
No, it's a recent thing that's happening.
Okay,
because
but-
people. What my point is people are starting to kind of think
Care.
about that, care
Yeah.
about this, but that's mostly because it's their job. Okay, but what I'm saying is the general public needs to care about this. Not only does the general public need to care about this, once the general public pays more attention to this, politicians have to start paying it.
Well, a
more
lot of people
attention to
treat it
this.
like house fires and tornadoes.
Right.
They're not worried about it until it happens to them. They see it that they happen to their neighbor and they go,
That's my point.
you know, they go, oh, it sucks for him.
Right.
And then they think, I'm glad my fucking house didn't burn down.
I think my whole point here is that what you guys are talking about, in the only way it's going to happen is if politicians care.
So why is it bad that we're talking about it
No,
now?
it's not bad. I don't think it's bad at all. But we've been talking about gun control, and kids keep dying in schools, and it's been happening since the 90s. So you really think that something's going to happen? I mean, I don't know. We absolutely can talk about it, and we can talk about it till our faces turn blue. But until the corruption that's happening up in Washington is taken care of, you're never going to see a change. And that's the thing, was we keep voting in people. It's like we voted in Biden because Trump was bad. Sure. But then the first bill that Biden passed, he
Bomb Syria.
bombed Syria. He made a plane that doesn't work. He cut our stimulus. He said, no, everyone's getting 2,000. And then he went, well, you got 600, so now it's 1,400. And then he's given money to these, and he's not any better. I mean, the only thing, yeah, you can bring in Tulsi Gabbard, but they're never going to let her go in and compete. They're going to let her.
She quit anyway. She got out of the
she's
game.
good. They're never going to let her debate. Trump's going to rerun in 2024 and probably get reelected for another 4 years.
Well, that's just what it shows you. If you count on, once again, and I'm not trying to go, here's the libertarian, but if you count on the government to save you and make you a
Right.
better person, you're going to be waiting a long fucking time.
Right.
But there is some personal responsibility to the mental health thing, which is you don't have to wait on the politician to do it. And one thing I learned from the therapist that I was seeing for a while is there's a lot of benefit in like the elemental stuff. There's a certain, and she explained it a lot better than me, but if you can get around things, some people find comfort if they get around things like you were talking about, like hiking, camping, going out in nature, being around fire, like sitting around a fire. There's something really therapeutic about that. Being around water, running water, even if you just take a walk by the creek or something like that. There's a lot of those things, and those are way ancient things. Those are way more heavily integrated into us than politics that we invented in the last 100 years. Like, there's a lot of benefit to that. So if you can't get out to see a therapist, if you can't maybe go take a walk, get some exercise, try to do something, clear your mind. And there's probably a big argument to be made for getting away from social media, getting away from your phone, getting away from screens.
I think also getting away from video games can also be very helpful. I know some people that is their outlet. For me personally, I found that spending 5 days off of a screen, playing video games, playing in a virtual world is very beneficial to my mental health and getting back to reality.
These days, games are so good that when you stop playing,
Yeah.
you probably look around and go, ugh.
Yeah.
The real
Well,
world
when you
sucks.
when you listen to Frying Pan play Apex, it makes it makes total sense to take 5 days off. She gets very upset.
Anyway, so we got to. You can cut in right here in the podcast. Say something.
Yeah, Frying Pan and the podcast.
I talk
Say
too
something.
much.
I'm glad paper
No,
towels are back in
no,
stock.
no. Boo.
Fuck you. All right, whatever.
Boo.
I'm glad we have toilet paper again.
Oh,
Dude, listen.
I've been able to buy Lysol wipes every time I went to the fucking grocery store.
I'm really excited about that.
I like Lysol wipes.
Me too. It's easy to clean the stove. Happy birthday, COVID.
Happy birthday, Casey.
Oh, Lord.